Namaste and greetings. I, Paridhi, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav and Niti Anusandhan Sansthan, Nai Delhi, extend my warmest welcome to you all to IMPRI Web Policy Learning. Today marks the day 8 for DFPGYF, Diplomacy, Foreign Policy and Geopolitics Youth Fellowship, Cohort 3.0, a 3-month online immersive introductory leadership certificate training fellowship program, an online national winter and spring school program organized by IMPRI Center for International Relations and Strategic Studies, New Delhi. The chair for this program is Professor Sanjukta Bhattacharya ji, retired professor, International Relations, Jadavpur University, Kolkata, visiting professor, IMPRI. Conveners are Dr. Simi Mehta ji, CEO and Editorial Director, IMPRI, Dr. Arjun Kumar ji, Director, IMPRI, New Delhi. Before we begin, I would like to state the housekeeping rules. Please join the meeting on time. There will be Q&A session after each presentation. Share your questions on the Q&A box. The questions must not be posted as an anonymous attendee. Ensure that your questions are precise. Refrain from making journal comments in the questions to save time. To begin today's session, it is my honor to invite our chair, Professor Sanjukta Bhattacharya ji, for opening remarks. We welcome you and over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Paridhi. It's good to be back again after last week, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the presentations. I've seen the abstracts. I don't know how many. Have you, Paridhi, also told them how many minutes they're supposed to? They know the rules, a PowerPoint presentation and how long it's going to take? Because we want the maximum number of students to present today. It'll be a 2-hour-long session, and he'll all be presenting. But he will tell you exactly, you cannot go on for very long. I'm not sure exactly how, 6 minutes? Is that it, or 5 minutes?
Yes, ma'am, around 5 minutes, I guess. Today we have 5 presenters.
5 presenters, 5 minutes each. Okay. And then after that? Because
Ma'am, presentations are followed by your comments, your feedback on their presentations.
Right. Okay, Sana, that's all right. But only 5 presentations. Anyway, I'm looking forward to those, all the presentations today. And in fact, without really wasting time, we can go on. You have been listening to a lot of lectures, a number of lectures, as this, you just heard, is day 8. So that would mean what? Not 14 lectures, less than that, because you have had your own sessions too, but quite a few lectures. So basically you have an idea what this course is about and exactly how to frame your own papers so that they can be published. For some of you, maybe your first publication. Some of you, maybe you already published before. So basically, these should be complete presentations and they should be well researched. I hope in the meanwhile you've gone through the earlier fellowship books and what has been the outcome of these books. So you have an idea about the reach of these books. Okay. Without wasting further time, we can have the first, Paridhi, we can have the first speaker.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for setting the tone for today's session so well. Moving forward to the fellows' creative project presentations, all the fellows are kindly requested to accept the invitation to join as panelists, which will enable you to turn on your audio, video, and share your screen. Each fellow will have 5 minutes to present their ongoing work, followed by a chair's remark. So, to begin with today's presentations, I would like to invite Ansari Usama. Are you here? Ansari Usama, are you in the meeting? I think in the meanwhile we can move forward to the second one. So next we have Aditya Verma.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, over to you.
Yeah.
Hello, Aditya. Maybe
Good evening,
you
ma'am.
can also show yourself when you are presenting.
Sorry, ma'am.
I said you can also show yourself. Let's look at you
Yes.
also while you.
Yes, ma'am. I just have a little bit of difficulty navigating this. Really sorry.
No problem. No problem. Yes, Aditya, you can see you and your screen too.
So I'll start. Good evening, Chairperson, and the esteemed IMPRI panel. My research titled "The Sovereignty Paradox" is something that critically evaluates the India's pursuit of an Atmanirbhar Bharat, especially in the defense sector. In a world of global diplomacy and interconnectedness, um, the in light of and especially in light of the recent feedback that I got from ma'am, this project has pivoted to examine how India navigates through the tension between its desire to become totally self-reliant and the structural necessity for an high interdependence when it comes to technology and other manufacturing segments. Today, I will ensure that I am able to show a picture, especially of the 2026 landscape, true strategic autonomy, which is not found in distance or in isolation, but in sophisticated diplomatic and management of selective alignments. Introducing my topic, uh, and to address the core critique of my research, I have moved from absolute indicization, which in 2026 often functions more as a strategic aspiration than a logical reality. And absolute self-sufficiency seems like a myth in a interconnected world like we live today. From creating jet engines that need foreign technology to the critical vulnerability when it comes to the kind of minerals that we need, because the kind of defense equipment that we make these days are an amalgamation of basically all the critical minerals that we find and other essential elements, ensuring that our dependencies are diversified and our sovereignty is preserved through leverage, not just local labor. The first topic that I'm going to discuss is the technology trap, and I will like to explain this through a case study, which is the recent GE 414 engine deal that we are yet to finalize with the United States. That although we have secured 80% of transfer of technology, which seems like a very big diplomatic win, but the remaining 20% is actually the main uh, the secret that remains with the original manufacturer and the original maker, which is the OEM in the United States. The main technology that talks about the metallurgy, hapometallurgy, that brings about making of an engine. Uh, and India, still needs to work on that, and we are yet very far behind when it comes to creating an engine because our own Kaveri engine project that has been running through the 90s, and now even with an engine that is successful, but it is still not something that we can use in our jet engines. We are currently might use, and we might just use it in loitering munitions and drones, but not in jet engines. So we are still dependent on foreign entities to get a jet engine for ourselves. Although India uses its market size as a tool to fill this gap of technology that access was once denied. And now we'll talk about the next big vulnerability that India faces right now, and especially in the recent times we've seen what happens in the West Asia uh, part of the world, where 90% of India's crude, which is and 60% of LNG transit happens from the Strait of Hormuz, and currently, which is under siege of a global war, we can say, and that actually creates a lot of vulnerability in the sense even if India uh, makes and manufactures its whole indigenous tanks, indigenous naval vessels, the fuel to power those weapons will still come from the Middle East, the West Asia, and that the recent shock exposed our structural dependency. Uh, a way forward could be pivoting to the Russian crude or the India, Brazil, Australia energy corridor that have been we are working on. Currently, we've signed an MOU with Brazil as well. For the essential and critical minerals. And moving on to the next topic, that is the new frontier. The latest technology thing that comes in question, which is everything that has been manufactured, starting from our mobile phone to a small chip that is used in a refrigerator or a smartwatch. Everything happens through critical minerals. India has listed a total of 22 critical minerals, of which only some are found in India, while major uh, manufacturer or the refiners of this critical minerals remain China. China also holds strategic leverage using its debt policy to bring in all these minerals. And actually, the 90% of the manufacturing that happens of the critical minerals, the refining, all of it happens in China. And China being uh, an adversary of India of sorts, it creates a problem for India where we're totally dependent on China for our critical mineral needs. Of some of them, the examples are lithium, cobalt, and neodymium, which is used to make the world's strongest magnet as well. I mentioned about the Brazil MU. This is one of the way forward that we can bring about a change in leveraging our diplomacy and to basically having resource sovereignty. Now we'll talk about strategic realism for 2047. That is our vision of a Viksit Bharat. Uh, in pursuit of that dream, we have to remain very realistic. We can't be saying that we are creating an airframe like our own indigenous fighter LCA Tejas. Although 80% of its components, like the mainly the airframe, the avionics, is all developed in India. But the most critical part, that is the engine. Without it, airframe would be of no use. It's still being manufactured. It's still coming from being imported from the US and other engines being imported from France, from Dassault um, and Spectate entities like Spectate. Now, self-reliance is a multi-decade transition and not an immediate switch. So we are all we know that we have to uh, live in that interdependent world and create this use strategic diplomacy to cater these needs. And although India has been successful in doing that through by buying S-400s, that is a defense system to protect our airspace from Russia, and similarly finding a similar weapon and importing it from the US. The closing thought my closing thought would be, in conclusion, we can say after and especially with my research, I found out that a diplomat is as important as a frontline engineer when it comes to uh, making a country sovereign, making a country self-reliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Aditya. It was a good presentation. Just some very technical questions that I have. Ouchi. Can we go back to the title page?
Yes, sir.
Sovereignty Paradox: Navigating High-Tech Interdependence in India's West Policy. Okay, you've taken only one case in India's defense diplomacy. Uh, uh, all right. When you're writing a paper, all right, when you are
Yes, sir.
uh, your presentation was very good. That has to be there. And also the topic is very relevant to India's foreign policy today. And your concluding thing about your diplomats are as important as you said, engineers. Okay, that is also very important because diplomacy in foreign policy is very, very important. All right. I mean, the opposite of diplomacy is basically being in conflict, if not in war, and if not at war with other countries. All right. So diplomacy is very, very important. And navigating high-tech interdependence is also the work of diplomats on the one hand, but also engineers, etc., those who are working on it. So, this. All right, now the technical part of it. I think this is a very good topic, and you hit the right notes, etc. And when you present the paper, of course, when you write the paper, it will be a more complete paper. But when you are writing a paper, you must first basically raise what are your questions. All right, what are your research questions? Okay. First, of course, you have a literature review because in any paper, any research paper, what is the work that has already been done in this topic? All right. And once you have basically done that, I mean, then you can locate what work has not been done, and that is your research gap. All right. So from the research gap arises basically the research questions. All right. What are you exactly looking at? So tell me, Aditya, what are your research questions? Now that you presented, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, basically, like what I saw so far was a lot of discussion on how India has come so far, where they talk about percentages of basically saying that 80% of an aircraft is now something that India is making. Not a lot of countries in the world make a aircraft of their own, as small as a airframe. Not a lot of countries make us airframe, but the question arises that how are we still so dependent? Where in a recent case study that I saw was Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. It has created a lot of airframes for our new Tejas variant, but we haven't received any. We haven't received our orders that we did for the engines. So we can't use those aircraft without the engines. So we're still dependent. So that so to I was my research basically was that how can we navigate that gap, and how can we move forward wherein we don't have the technology as yet, but how using diplomacy, how can we work through it and get all the essential parts that we need.
Well, the research question should be framed in a different way. So is India fully Atmanirbhar? All right. That is a question which you'll be answering, or which you have answered already. So from actually your answers, I'm going to the questions. All right. So is India Atmanirbhar in every way? It is not, you say, because it is an interdependent world and we are dependent on not only basically critical minerals, rare earth, etc., all that. Uh, 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 Quite apart from that, we are also basically dependent on technology because high tech, the
I think so there is some network issue and she will be joining again.
Should I stop sharing or? Should I leave it like that?
Yeah, I guess you can stop sharing.
Also, Ansari Osama, are you ready? You're gonna be the
Oh,
next.
yes.
Okay, you're gonna be next once ma'am joins.
Should I start sharing my presentation?
We can wait for ma'am, then you
Okay.
can start sharing. Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, you're muted.
Is that better?
Yes, ma'am. Perfect.
Okay, now I had to join from my phone. Something's wrong, I told you, with the connections on my uh, both my laptop and my desktop. So anyway, uh, okay, Aditya, we're talking
Ma'am,
about research questions. Yeah, you're
if I
there,
could,
right?
yes, ma'am, if I could mention something.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I had actually created a slide that mentioned some of the questions, basically the literature review, but
Okay,
because of the limited number of slides, I didn't add it. So if I could just
okay.
point out, like, tell you the questions.
Yes, please go right ahead.
Yes, ma'am. The first question was, to what extent can India leverage its position as a second largest arms exporter in the world to force a transition from licensed manufacturing to joint designing authority? And the next question was, can India be truly self-reliant in defense if its military is operational mobility is tethered to a single volatile choke point like Strait of Hormuz? And the third question was, as a modern warfare shifts towards AI drones and other munitions, how can India achieve Atmanirbharta when it's 100% dependent on external sources for all the semiconductors and the critical minerals? And the last question was, in an era of weaponized supply chains, does indigenizing the assembly of a platform truly confer strategic autonomy if the intellectual property for its core engine remains foreign?
Okay, uh, those are relevant. Have you also located the research gap?
Uh, no, ma'am.
I
I
mean,
looked
what work has been done already on this?
when I looked it up, but like what so far what I have found was all the questions that I asked right now and the things that came out of it, like the questions that came out of it. Uh,
Okay, so basically, take a look at available literature. Now, this is a very current topic. So you'll find few books, but there are books, all right. But there are lots of articles, all right. If you really look at it, because it's a debate. We claim that it's an Atmanirbhar Bharat, and of course, it's a political debate more than anything else. But then from there, you can get also the technical part. So taking that into account, I mean, basically, you have to give a bit of a literature review, all right, and look at the gap that you have, uh, and then base your questions, because some of the questions that you have asked have been asked by others too. Okay, so what's new about your work? Got the point. Okay, now your work, of course, is new, all right, because you are working on a certain case study, or two case studies, with the Hormuz. But a lot of people are working on Hormuz in any case. And but what you've also pointed out, the alternate routes which are available. Okay, and it's not just basically Brazil, India, Australia, that kind of thing. There are other routes, all right, which can be developed. Now, India was developing. I mean, of course, one was uh, Central Asia, but that was through Chabahar, and that has been kind of ruined for the time being. All right, but are there other Central Asian routes that it can develop? Okay. So basically, Atmanirbhar, to become Atmanirbhar, you need ultimately you need a number of you need not only the technology, but you need basically the supplies. All right. So these are two things that you need. I mean, when you're answering, is India Atmanirbhar? So today's independent world, we do not produce, all right, everything, and we do not also have everything that is required for modern technology. So basically, what are the things that we require? Importantly, not all right, just go into those, all right, those which are there. Then apart from that, all right, once you've listed that, uh, so what is preventing India, all right, from basically becoming Atmanirbhar in these aspects? Or why can we not access technology? Why can we not access minerals or whatever that we need, oil, gas, whatever we need, require? Okay, choke points, etc., etc., and we do not produce it. All right. Yeah. So therefore, basically, going into all these. All right. Uh, what are the alternatives? So those are your suggestions. All right, that you have to basically give. Okay. So go point by point by point. All right. It's not a narrative. It's a research is what you're researching. All right. You are analyzing. Analysis is very important in research. Okay. But for analysis, you need facts. On the basis of basically facts, well, you are analyzing. Okay. So although you are on the right track, go a bit deeper. All right, go a bit deeper, look a bit deeper into the material available, into what are your research questions, because you asked very general research questions. Okay, normally research questions are general, but they're more pointed. Okay, so go into all these, and then, well, uh, we'll get a better paper out of you, right? Okay, Aditya. Yeah.
So,
Any
ma'am,
question?
should I go forward with one of the themes that I talked today, like the semiconductor part, the technology part, or should I talk about all these three themes?
I think you should talk about all the themes. All right. Uh,
Yeah.
if you just talk about the technology part, or do you have the background for the technology?
Ma'am, I am an economics graduate, so maybe I can go forward with the economics part of it.
The economics part of it. No, you can take on the technology part of it too. It's not. I mean, not the real. What should I say? Uh, 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 the technology is that we do not have uh, the complete technology. We are more what assembling things rather than producing. Right over here. Okay, we are producing some things, but do we have that kind of capacity, or right, where we can hold up somebody else's production? No, we don't have that kind of high technology, but we do. We make it cheaper, all right. Uh, but we are also kind of importing technology, right? Now, say Chandrayaan, or for that matter, a mission to Mars, all right? It was done very cheaply, which is the Indian strong point, all right? Something which looks like it's going to collapse in no time at all, that really goes very far, all right? That is our indigenous part. But quite a bit of the technology is not ours. We have adapted from others or already developed it. Okay, maybe we admit it, maybe we don't admit it, but it's very much there. So basically, uh, do we have that kind of critical knowledge of technology? I mean, US has, China has developed some things, all right. uh, Hypersonic missiles, the kind it was the first to develop. I mean, all right, USA did not have it at that time, a successful hypersonic testing, but China had managed it. Have we anything? We have, these space, as I said, what is sent to Mars, all right, okay. uh, and now we are basically sending to the moon, and probably will be sending a person into outer space and back again, which means basically ICBMs, all right. It's a dual use technology, but are we producing it completely ourselves, or are we adapting both? All right, technology from outside. All right, for this. So basically, these are the things that you must look at. So do use technology too, not only just the economics thing. All right, where we go into the states of Hormuz and the supply chain side. All right, that is very much there. All right, so take both technology and supply chain. All right. Uh, Take both of that, because these are the two. And but right in the beginning, you must make clear exactly what you are going to discuss. Supply chains with special emphasis on oil and gas. All right. Uh, Technology. All right. With special emphasis on what? All right. What we don't have. I mean, aircraft. We're talking about it. What is it that we do not have? We are producing aircraft, but are we assembling aircraft or are we producing it completely on our own? Is the technology ours completely? Okay.
Yes.
So that is what you must look into. Do you get my point, Aditya?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So yeah. So that will basically make your paper more interesting, more clear also. All right.
Yes,
And it will
ma'am.
not read like just a narrative. It's not like storytelling or anything like that. It's actually proper research,
Yes,
analytical
ma'am.
research. Okay, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Aditya. Ma'am, moving forward, we have Ansari Osama. He's
Okay.
ready now. So, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Osama. Osama, we'd like to see you too because it's
It's
better if we can see you.
screen is visible.
Yes, your screen can be seen. I'm seeing it from my. Yeah, yeah, fine. All right. But I can't hear you.
Hello, hello.
Oh, you're speaking. All right.
So good evening, everyone, respected ma'am, and all the uh, fellow participants. So my name is Ansari Usama, and today my this research title is on the beyond traditional warfare, dual use of AI, and the role of India defense startup in building asymmetric deterrence. So as you know, we are entering in an era where warfare is shifting, where algorithms are becoming as critical as artillery. My presentation will focus on how India is strategically shifting from being the largest defense importer to building its own asymmetric deterrent through emerging technologies and patterns. So this is the my research questions and methodology. To ensure this research, uh, I am focusing on the two like a three aspects: the core, the methodology, and the objectives. So, like we see, like how this in the diplomatic shifts are there, how India's Intex, actually all these the full form, most of the keywords are mentioned in the below the slides. So how the recent India US ICT agreements, like from where we are mostly buying India US dynamic from buyer seller to basically we are moving to co-development. Initially, India used to purchase or used to imports, but now we are moving towards the collaboration perspective. There is a strategic impact that has is happening in India, like how we see like different startups are there building dual use of AI to create asymmetric deterrence for India. The methodology is like seen from the policy perspective, relies on the quantified analysis of Ministry of Defense are there, and also the written IDX guidelines, which is happened, which I will share on the upcoming slide. The case study, there will be a case study will also there, which will analyze how like 400 plus startups are there on this IDX, this team, and we talk about the policy, the objectives. So there will be a policy formation will be there, which propose like the cross-border defense venture capitals and the strategic push, like how India's like transition into net security provider in the Indo-Pacific region. So there is a the diplomatic breach is there between ICT and Interfax. Recently, our National Security Advisor, Ajit Doval, sir, and the US NSA, Jake Sullivan, was at the meeting that is held in the ICT. The frame was into January 2023. So here we talk about the military uh, relationship. To join this tech co-development, collaboration work. So this that is moving forward in the June 23. Even the in the access, so we launched the actually integrated different Indians and US defense startup ecosystem and the supply chain. Basically, what we are doing is India and
The third one is the quantitative impact of the milestone, like around 8 crore plus we have awarded in this for the different startup driven, like in maritime startups, that are different intelligence surveillance, there is reconnaissance that, and that's the communications are there. 60 plus deep tech startup from both the nation, they are actually collaborating community platform. This is the left-hand side image, this event which focuses on the defense in defense innovation. So when you talk about the case study, the startup is a security provider. So on the left hand side, we see the civilian drones are there. So when you see, like, basically we're using for the agriculture purpose also. But with this more about the collaboration, and majority of the collaboration in the startup around 400 plus. So we are also integrating into defense supply chain also, and around 100 crore was allocated specifically for domestic defense tech innovation. There are 75 plus indigenous AI products, like different type of drones are there. Like swarm drones are there, predictive maintenance drones are there. They are deployed by the Ministry of Defense, and we move forward a strategic result. So we to all time high about the defined export, like all time about around 21,000 crore for the financial year 23 and 24. So when I talk about the conclusion, so what you see, like the majority of the like toward the Atmanirbhar Bharat, like many of the startups are emerging in this defense ecosystem, especially for the defense diplomacies. There are different policies are which is incorporating it to enhance the more and startup. When I see, like, mostly in the side and and many of the institutes also, IIT and ISCs also, they are also participating in this for the faster cross-border startup funding. And when we talk about the vision, so India is providing as a net security. Majority we talk about the Indo-Pacific region for the providing defense application, defense startup, and defense, you know, different drones are there. Mostly talk about the defense drone and using AI technologies for we are exporting like in this, mostly in this specific domain. So like we are expanding our role more especially toward the net security provider. Yeah.
Yeah, Ansari, very good attempt. Let's go back to your topic page, your title page. Defense tech, asymmetry, warfare, and dual use. Dual use one. That is what I was wondering. Dual use one means?
There is a dually like
Huh?
I didn't get a ma'am.
What I'm saying, can you read out, because I'm reading it wrong.
It is
Defense tech, asymmetric warfare, and dual use.
diplomacy.
I'm seeing it as I don't know why the rest of the thing hasn't appeared here. Dual use diplomacy. All right. But that also was the one of the things I was asking you. Talking about diplomacy or dual use technology? Okay.
It is for technology tech diplomacy.
Dual use diplomacy. What is diplomacy?
In this sense, like my main focus is on the tech diplomacy, and even in this domain, in this title, my more focus is on the startup, like a startup perspective. So I'm narrowing my research title to more only the startup which are there in India and with the collaboration with the US.
Okay, I think you should change the word diplomacy. All right.
Okay.
Because diplomacy has a specific meaning. All right. Which of course does not seem to tally over here with what you're saying. It's a very interesting paper because, I mean, startups, all right, as such, SMEs, MSMEs, these are things that we've been emphasizing. India has been emphasizing, the Prime Minister has been emphasizing, and a lot of money has gone into startups, etc. And many of the things which are now being produced are not only basically startups, but well, public-private sector. And this has been there for some time and it's increased further, even more. And as you have pointed out, a lot of money is also allocated to startups with specific, all right, and basically instructions for uh, defense technology. Okay. Now, I want you to basically explain each of these. What is defense tech?
Where we are using defense technology in the terms of drones, we are using it. We're using AI and drones, robotics segment in the defense segment.
Right. So defense tech, well, you're just talking about drones, but there are a lot of things which are, I mean, and it links up with your dual use of the technology. So it's not just drones. Drones are used also for what? Spreading fertilizers. All right.
Yes,
Okay.
and agriculture also, surveillance also. So with time, even now
Absolutely. Yeah.
so
Go
now
ahead.
we are using drones for the agriculture purpose also. Like we are also using for
Agriculture. Absolutely.
during some festival also, like for making that drones. So are
Right.
there. But now we also moving toward the drones in the defense segment also. Basically, see like many of the IITs also they have the research center. The new research are there, which is aligning toward the defense sector.
Absolutely. In fact, a lot of money goes in. In fact, I'm from Jan-Apr University, which has a building called Jupiter building. We do not know what goes on. Basically, the DRDO gives money to Jalapur University also to kind of develop technology, which is used for defense. Okay. So this has been going on for quite some time. But now, in fact, the new thing is this not just IITs and these universities which have basically a technology as one of their focus points. Okay. But startups, all right, young people who come out of this thing, they are also being asked to. But apart from that, I think even other private companies are being drawn in. Well, the Ambanis, um, uh, not the Ambanis, the other one, the Adanis, etc. They're also producing dual-use technology. All right. So it's not just startups, it's not SMEs, MSMEs. The big ones are actually the big companies which are benefiting, which are producing. All right, over there, and they're the ones who can develop new technology primarily because they have the money. All right. When the startups basically have limited amount of money, so they can hire only limited amount of people. So that is there. So defense tech is that which is used for defense, but mainly for a large extent, to a large extent, in fact, it is dual use technology which is being used. All right. How much of this is indigenous? How much of this basically is being produced within our country, as you said, via startups, etc. Drones, well, drones are being produced by many countries. All right, Israel, etc. They are also producing. So, what is special about our drones? Are they cheaper? Okay.
Yeah, they are cheaper in cost also. The manufacturing cost is cheaper because we are using it very low cost and the service cost is also low compared to the other countries like Turkey is there and other Western countries are there.
Right. And also, basically, can they deliver, I mean, basically bombs and things like that?
Yeah, so basically we are targeting in the Indo-Pacific region, those countries, the underdeveloping countries, the developing countries, in those.
So these are things that you must point out. All right. So, and who is doing this? The startups, the SMEs and the MSMEs, and of course the government sector, or basically some of the larger public sector companies, because there is public, private, all right, such collaboration also on this. All right. So basically, it's there. Uh, Now explain asymmetric warfare.
So the warfare is like initially we used to have war using the tanks are there, but now we are using not only tank but we are also using different other technologies like we are using drones also we are using some robotics also.
Robotics, etc., AI. How much of this are we using? All right, USA uses this all the time. Israel is also using it. Okay, whereas basically you find that Iran is kind of low tech, and yet in fact they've been able to make an impact, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Quite a bit of an impact, all right, by using what brains. All right, the Straits of Hormuz is basically sheer brain, also hitting targets nearby, whatever. So asymmetric warfare can be countered, all right, by low tech also. It's not just high tech, all right?
Yes,
The produce
definitely.
is produced. Yeah. So is there anything basically that India produces which is to, because you're talking about the Indo-Pacific and basically that it, so in fact that is what you should say right in the beginning, that the vision of India is, all right, to control the Indo-Pacific, right? So bringing the last first, giving that vision, you're going into defense tech, asymmetric warfare. What has India produced? And that is very important. I didn't go into that, okay? Now, I have a problem with the word dual use diplomacy. What exactly do you mean by dual use diplomacy?
Basically, if you see so basically we have this collaboration with the US, like recently we have this IECT and the this Inter.X. So here we are using like we have two collaborations are there between India and USA. So from that perspective, I said like they towards this diplomacy.
How far have they gone?
So it is a recent only, in January
23. 23 was actually Biden, right?
Yeah.
So has this been followed up?
It is only like around 60 startups like collaborating it from the what I have found from the literature news. Like as
Okay,
of
so what
now.
are they working on? I mean, basically, are they working on innovative technology which is being also used by the United States?
Yeah, so they are using on three basically segments, mostly on the AI-driven maritime, the segment like intelligence surveillance and reconnaissance. Like basically the communication sector also under communication. We have this naval seas are there. So
Deep
from
tech
this,
startup.
yeah. So this dual diplomacy is capturing this two channels.
Why do you say dual use?
So
It
right
is
now,
diplomacy.
so this title like I shared last time also. So when I did
Yeah.
the little bit preliminary research, I thought since India and like US are involved, two countries are there. So from that dual come.
I think rethink the word, they use the word dual. All right. Um,
Yes.
so basically, I mean, this is a diplomatic bridge, definitely. First of all, I'm not very sure exactly what ISBN has produced so far because it is new. It is very new. And how much of basically, uh, well, exactly what they're doing and what we are doing. All right. Whether they're using our technology more, what we're developing, or are they also sharing technology? That is also very important. But, that is not dual use. Dual use technology is there, but dual use diplomacy. Uh, just rethink the word. I mean, this is a suggestion because somehow it jars a little bit, all right? And if you're going to keep it, if you're going to use it, you have to explain exactly what you mean by dual use diplomacy, all right? Then only you can keep it.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think your framework is okay. It's really good, and you can go ahead with it. Just basically, as I said, some technical things or that I wanted to
Okay.
point out. Okay, otherwise, I mean, just go right ahead. It's fine.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, you're welcome. Right.
Thank you, Ansari Osama. Next, we have Varisha Sharma. Are you here?
Oh, yes, I'm here. Am I
Okay, over
visible?
to you. Okay.
Okay, Varisha.
Ma'am, just a minute. I'm just sharing my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
visible.
Okay. So, the topic of my paper, it's regional proxy competition and the limits of global governance, the Sudan humanitarian crisis. So, the background is that the Sudan humanitarian crisis, like it started, the Sudan civil war. Like Sudan has always been it has had a civil war situation, but the time frame that I'm looking at, it's from 2023 to the present times, and it is one of the worst humanitarian crises because there are over 13.6 million people who are displaced, and there are many people who are in need of health assistance as well. So this basically started off as a civil war between the Sudanese armed forces and the rapid support forces. And the reason why it has become so prolonged is because both of these armed forces are supported by one of them, Sudanese armed forces, it's supported by Egypt, and the rapid support forces, they are indirectly supported by the UAE. And this has led to this crisis becoming extremely prolonged. So, what my main research question is that how does regional proxy competition limit the ability of global governance institutions, particularly the United Nations, in this case, to respond effectively to the Sudan humanitarian crisis? This is because there is a lot of literature on how there are a lot of major powers such as the US or Russia, they fought proxy wars in other places. But here it is this proxy competition between Egypt and UAE that is limiting the ability of United Nations particularly and the UNSC specifically to respond effectively to the Sudan humanitarian crisis. Now the sub questions are that how do the Egypt's weapon supplies to SAF and UAE's gold deals, how do they balance each other out, which prevents UN enforcement, and how successful have the regional organizations like African Union have been in mediating this crisis? There are a lot of different frameworks that are trying to mediate this crisis, but because of the fact that they're overlapping frameworks, there has been very less success. And the third is, can local interventions like rerouting aid through local networks bypass these contested paths to aid Sudan? So, like the theoretical framework, it draws from the theories of global governance as well as it also like the limits of international organizations. And as I stated earlier, how usually it is like global powers who do like are participants of proxy wars. But in this case, it's a proxy competition between two powers that is influencing the ability of a multilateral organization. So I'm basically studying that. Now, my main methodology for this, it's I have used secondary data, and I've used it from the official UN websites as well as from a lot of like for Egypt tracking the Egypt's help to SAF as well as UAE's help to RSF. I have used Al Jazeera, Bloomberg, Reuters, all of these websites because they also offer like another perspective, not just the westernized perspective. And so I've used like a qualitative method of analysis, and I've used the case study approach, and I'll be doing it by the content analysis method. So like I'm still working on it because like a lot of them are very hard to like actually access, but like I'm trying to establish basically a connection between every time like Egypt gives its support to the SAF, and there is a constant like congruent support by the UAE to the RSF as well indirectly in gold deals, and then the UN tries to do something, but that really doesn't work out. So, and this I'm trying to map out from 2023 to present time. So, like, this is the work that I've done till now, and I will be working more on developing this timeline only and then discussing it further and then listing out some recommendations. So, that is my work till now.
Okay, Varisha, good. And I'm so glad that you're working on a case study which involves a different country, not just India, because most papers appear to be on India. So can you go back to your main
Sorry.
title page? Yeah.
Yes, I'll just.
Yeah. Okay. Regional Proxy Commission and the limits of global governance, the Sudan humanitarian crisis. And you're given a background. Now, basically, the background actually goes back to the Darfur case. All right. So it's not just basically the last few years. So when you're doing it, Sudan has been in conflict for a very long time, with South Sudan breaking off. And then, of course, you had the Darfur crisis. And the regional proxy competition, which is now there, all right, you have the UAE on one side, you Egypt, all these countries are kind of involved, okay? Now, I would like you to, in fact, you are going in the right direction. It's absolutely fine. I mean, you do have, give me your research questions. What exactly are you research? Yeah.
So, like, my main research question is how this competition is limiting the ability of global governance institutions. And in that, I'll be like studying how do both of these, like Egypt's weapon supplies and UAE's gold deals, how do they balance each other out? And what are the attempts at mediating this crisis? Whether they've been successful, if not, why? And finally, can local interventions, because there I read a paper and it was on how local networks are also trying to provide aid, because then that's focusing on the humanitarian part of it. They're trying to provide aid as well. So can that actually work on actually providing aid to the people who are stuck in Sudan? Straying away from the power dynamics, but coming to the humanitarian part of it. So these are like my main questions.
Okay, I mean, here, in fact, you're absolutely correct because when it comes to the IGAD and the AU, all right, and the United Nations was very happy with, well, basically the OAU, I mean, which preceded AU, all right, uh, primarily because there was a regional organization which, well, although this was not part of its agenda when it was done, but they thought that basically regional problems could be solved at the regional level rather than everything going up to the UN, all right? So multilateralism at a regional level, all right? So the right through what you find is the, well, Sudan has been very, very reluctant to let, in fact, the UN in, all right, all through what you find. And now also it does not want basically the UN in, all right. Does the UN want in? Number one, that's different because they do, all right. So what I'd also like you to go through are UN, all right, UN documents. You are looking at Reuters, you're looking at basically Bloomberg, and you are looking at Al Jazeera. I would also like you to look at UN documents on this, all right, because there have been many debates, all right. So, what have African countries said? What have others basically said? What has the UNSC discussed, all right, so far? They haven't taken any action, but basically go into all that, okay. Secondly, I'd like you to look at some local things, all right. Local means regional. Sudan, of course. I mean, I can't think of any newspaper which is, but look at the documents which is produced by the South African SAIIA, SAIA, all right? Okay, just take a look because, in fact, that is a very important think tank, all right? And South Africa has played a very important role in the AU regarding Sudan, right? So basically, they have some documents on Sudan which you may be interested in. Take a look at SAIA's website, see what you can find, all right? Similarly, go into the IGAD documents, all right, and AU, also the discussions, okay? So that will be a jump forward from secondary material to, in fact, primary material. You are doing some primary research also, okay? If you're looking at basically AU documents and discussions, all right, which must be available on the net. So really, I haven't looked because I have not worked on Sudan myself on the conflict itself, but they do discuss many things, and so therefore, in fact, I mean, it's worth taking a look at. Do take a look at those, all right. So those documents, just not basically news papers and news journals or news media, all right, but also basically some which are multilateral organizations and their documents. And SAIA, of course, is not a multilateral organization; it's a South African, all right, that's a think tank. So some think tanks which are regional or local even, okay. Otherwise, in fact, your research problem is well put. I mean, your questions are okay. You're going in the right direction, and there's nothing to talk about in regard. Let's go back again to your title page. Proxy competition and the limits of global governance. Now, basically, do you believe in global governance? Is there any such thing as global governance?
Today's time. I think
Yeah.
global governance depends on the actors who are a part of it. It has as much power as the actors give power to it. So I think the limits are that the actors don't really want to end this conflict also. There is not a desire. And that is one of the biggest limits of global governance. according to me.
Yeah, the problem with global governance also, I mean, you need an institution, all right, to carry on this global governance. And of course, people think that the UN can do that, all right? I mean, that can be the nodal point for global governance, all right? But then, of course, all these countries don't agree. Now, so far, there has been, I mean, this is an ideal that we have been talking about, but so far, there has been no such thing as global governance because the United Nations and multilateral institutions, they have certain norms, all right, which and every country is sovereign, all right? Every country is sovereign and therefore it's it is free to adapt, all right, as such, any kind of rules, regulations, international law, all right, or it can. The ICC has not been recognized, all right, by the United States, right? So how basically do you expect the ICC to work if one of the largest countries does not accept it? How do you expect the Paris climate, I mean, climate change, or that as such, talks to proceed further if the United States is not part of it, all right? So basically, if the United States, or for the matter, China, is not a part of these things, all right, then how do you expect there to be any kind of global governance? So the limits of global governance has to be discussed also separately, and there's a lot of work, all right, already on global governance. In fact, you can cite some of them that the main focus is not on global governance. We're talking about the limits of global governance in the case of Sudan. So clarify that, all right? So regional proxy competition and the limits of global governance. So far, there's not been anything. This is something, as I said, which is an ideal, but there's no such thing as global governance. And the reason is, all right, I'm not talking about regional proxy competition. We're talking about competition itself, all right, and power play. So there has not been global governance. So here, regional proxy competition and the limits of global governance, the Sudan humanitarian crisis is a perfectly fine topic. But do explain, all right, the limits of global governance and the literature on global governance, all right, already. Just mention them when you're writing, okay? Right?
Okay, I'll do that. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you,
Varisha.
ma'am.
Yes. All the best.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Varsha. Next, we have Vedant Samrat.
Good evening, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible but not visible. Vedant, can you also show yourself?
Yes, ma'am. I'm just switching on. Ma'am, am I
Yeah,
visible?
yeah, absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. I would like your permission to share the screen if possible.
Yes, of course. Go right ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, deterrence power of the US Navy.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, ma'am. So this is the basic structure or the research proposal for my research, and the topic is deterrence power of the U.S. Navy under several case studies of the historical instances, which are in chronological order of Vietnam, Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, and Iran. And my central research question for this paper would be that under what circumstances or conditions does U.S. Navy power projection succeed or fail as an instrument of strategic deterrence? And what does the cases of Vietnam, Iraq, Syria, and Iran reveal about the structural limits of sea power in deterring both state and non-state adversaries? So I would like to explore on the topic that when we talk about deterrence of naval power, we always talk about that state versus state deterrence, like with India and Pakistan, India and Bangladesh, or US and Israel have a very good connection with the navy power, which they have been using as an air defense in the current war scenarios. And the reason I chose this as the research gaps are the non-state actor blind spot, which I would like to explore. And geography is an understudied variable. Like in Afghanistan, it was a landlocked country, but US Navy was heavily used as two to three of the US naval carriers were used in several of the operations in the 20-year war. And the asymmetric weapons gap, I would like to also explore in the resistance fronts of the Houthis in the Middle East, like they have been dismantling our naval ships of all over the world whenever they are passing through that strait. So these are the theories which I would like to explore, like the deterrence theory under the three C's: effectiveness, of credibility, capability, and communication. And then I would like to have a comparative method for comparing these four case studies and try to form a new framework where we can argue or we can guess like what will be the next step of the US Navy to deter this or to protect itself from attacks like the Houthis and all. And my scope of analysis would be the timeline between 1965 to 2024. And I would be looking for the literature same from government websites and official websites of US Navy and if possible Iraq and Syria and Iran Navy as well. So these are the several case studies where the deterrence success and deterrence failures I have marked, like the naval blockade of North Vietnam, which caused them inflation by 90% in 1968. Then there was the sea control and power projection, like US also sent several naval aircrafts to threaten Vietnam, and also China and USSR who were trying to help the northern Vietnam to resist themselves against the southern Vietnam and the US forces. And the failures would be that the Gulf of Tonkin incident in August of 1964, sorry, like the ambiguous naval incident used to justify escalation, naval posture failed to deter northern Vietnam from continuing the insurgencies and all. And then I would like to also explore the Iraq and Syria from Desert Storm to ISIS campaign. Like the Desert Storm operation started back in 1991 and it was a success where six carrier battle groups were used in the Persian Gulf, and it was the largest naval blockade after World War II in Japan. And naval blockade also was helped to enforce the UN sanctions, and Tomahawk strikes were paralyzing Iraqi bases all over their geographical map. And then in the OIF 2003, it was a mixed outcome, not a proper victory or not a proper failure of the US Navy deterrence. Like carrier strikes enabled rapid regime collapse, but there was also an absence of post-war deterrence, which created a power vacuum which helped ISIS to rise in the Iraq and Syrian peninsula. And then, as we can see in the post 2014 and 19 time period, ISIS rose to a great power and they had to also deter it through not only US Navy but US Marines were also used to capture and kill the head of the ISIS in 2019. Then as we move to the Afghanistan crisis, it started basically in October 2001, where Tomahawk cruise missiles again were used from the Arabian Sea destroyers, and Taliban and Al-Qaeda targets were heavily bombed in the opening 48 hours of the operation. And the carrier wings and P-8 Poseidon missiles were also used in the same. But then there were not deterrence failures, but deterrence limits, as Afghanistan was a landlocked country and they already traded through land. So US could not use United Nations as a tool to block out their trade through naval areas. Like they could not stop their sea access as from the start they didn't had any. And after the insurgency was also after the 20-year war when the US took themselves out from the Afghanistan map, the Taliban again rose back to power, so it did not successfully deter the main problem or the main agenda which it wanted to it wanted to complete, and it started the war for. And then the Iran, like the ongoing strategic deterrence competition which is going on between the allies of US and the Iran as a sole power stopping them from entering Strait of Hormuz. So the tanker war has already been started from 1987, where several of the Iranian tankers were halted, but it was a successful deterrence from the US Navy, and the Fifth Fleet's presence was also a remarkable pinch on the Iranian soil as it pressured them to stop their nuclear programs for a while. But as we move towards the failures and gaps in the current 21st century, we do see that despite Fifth Fleet's presence, Strait of Hormuz is still in a full blockade, and there is not a single ship passing through without the permission of Iran. So these are the case studies which I would like to explore and have a comparative analysis on them. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, Vedant. I mean, you were in a tight spot after the war started because you were only going to work on Iran, and I told you to do the comparative thing. But what basically, I think you're mixing up a little bit about deterrence. All right, deterrence is to stop, right? To deter the
Yes, ma'am.
country. All right. So when you're bringing in Afghanistan, the landlocked theater, and all that, these were not deterrents. All right. The initial part was, all right, they tried to, in fact, force them to what? To hand over Osama and
Yes.
that kind of thing. But they did put their boots on the ground. That's the catchphrase now. All right. So basically,
Yes,
that
ma'am.
was not deterrence. Okay. So first explain what is. Deterrence, all right? Because you're talking about Vietnam, yes. There was an attempt at deterrence, all right? There was also, it was blockade. It's part of war, all right? So deterrence
Yes.
is something that is to prevent war. But what you're talking about, you're mixing up deterrence and you're also mixing up blockade and boots on the ground, all right? So uh, uh, these are all relevant, but only the first parts of these wars, all right, when they failed, that is when that the deterrence failed, and that is why there was war. All right, you're talking about 20-year war, definitely 20-year war in Afghanistan, but there was U.S. presence there, so that was not really deterrence as such. Okay, initially, what did they do? All right, uh, even when it comes to basically the uh, uh, when it comes to Iraq, I mean the 1992, the Kuwait crisis. All right, they tried to use
Yes.
deterrence. Now, basically, they tried to use well all kinds of pressure so that Iraq would draw back. All right, uh, then they send the military in. All right. Now this can happen also in Iran. All right. Deterrence failed to prevent the war, and now, in fact, I mean, one is worried that what would happen would be primarily well. That's what Trump was talking about yesterday, sending in soldiers. All right. Uh,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
one has to wait and see. So be very clear. I mean, what exactly do you mean by deterrence? All right.
Okay, ma'am.
Um, examine that. In fact, the first part uh, of your paper should be on deterrence. All right. There is a theory of deterrence also. There are theories
Yes.
of deterrence. Okay. So go into those theories of deterrence. Go into what is deterrence. All right. Uh, see if any of these. I mean, keep the case studies. If any of these fall under those theories of deterrence, right?
Okay,
Maybe
ma'am.
that is one way you can do it. All right. So what you'll be doing is turning it around. Again, it won't be a narrative. All right. They did this and then they did this and then they did this. No. All right. Look at the theories and do these. All right. What United States did to prevent war or to deter. All right. As such, did it succeed or did it not succeed? And does it fall under deterrence? All right. Or was it a prelude to putting American soldiers in the field. All right. When it comes to Vietnam, that's exactly what happened. Slowly they were infiltrating. All right, they're putting in soldiers into Vietnam, and this was going on from the 1950s, middle of the 1950s. Okay,
Yes,
full
ma'am.
fledged. All right. They have this habit of not declaring war and going in. All right. So it's only in the 60s that, of course, the presence was visible. But as the French were pulling out, they had their own theory. All right, of basically uh, the dominoes theory that one will fall after the other. And so, therefore, basically, they did not want, all right, Vietnam to become, all right, because from there it would spread to Southeast Asia, communism would spread to Southeast Asia. So, they were actually putting in soldiers, all right. So, look at the early history and see whether that can be placed under any theory of deterrence or whether
Okay,
basically
ma'am.
it's a strategy, all right, whether it's a strategy. So examine these cases and find out whether this is actually naval deterrence or whatever. Now, many of them are not naval deterrence. I mean, sending in missiles from American ships into Afghanistan, all right, that's not deterrence, all right.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
That's outright war. That's basically attacking. So rethink this again, all right, and maybe at the next this thing again after you rethought it, present, all right, your revised version.
Ma'am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. Your interview can spoil because you were working on something else, and then of course situations changed and you had to completely change over. So,
Yes, ma'am.
Vedant, yeah, I mean, I can understand your dilemma. So basically, make it kind of theory based. All right, look at deterrence. All right, and uh, after that, well, we will look. All right.
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Vedant.
All right, thank you, Vedant. Next, we have Ankita.
Good evening. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Ankita.
Just allow me a minute to share my presentation, please.
Yeah, sure.
Though, like, it's at a very big, like, initial stage.
Okay, I
But
want to see you too.
yeah, definitely allow me a minute, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah.
I am unable to do it. I don't know if for some reason. Just
Ankita, actually, have you gotten a request to join as a panelist? Then only you'll be able to access audio,
is
video,
it?
and screen sharing.
Like, where can I find the request?
Sana ma'am, can you share it again with her?
Yes, I have shared. Please accept it.
Sure. Can you see me?
Yeah, there you are. Good evening, Ankita.
Just 1 second. Like, I'm very new to this Zoom framework, so like, um, is it visible, ma'am?
Not yet.
Just 1 second, please.
Yes, it's visible now.
Is it?
Yeah, now it's visible.
Sure. Good evening once again, ma'am. So, like, the topic of my presentation is the impact of geopolitical tensions and diplomacy on airspace access and airline route planning. So, like aviation industry is purely not a technical and a commercial enterprise, but it is also a strategic tool of diplomacy. Like in the case of aviation industry, aircraft access, like which we call bilateral, reflect the state of international relations, reflect the state of one country with the another country as a part of international relation. And like for this country, use traffic right as a tool of negotiation. Like and geopolitical tension, like which are going currently, such as sanctions, military disputes, and shifting alliances, they directly disrupt the planning, routes, the cost of operating, and many more factors. So, by the help of this paper, I would like to explore how multilateral or bilateral agreements, multilateral institutions, and diplomatic negotiations shape the freedom of airlines to operate across the globe. So I would like to navigate, though the presentation is very initial stage. So this is my agenda of presenting: the introduction, the literature review, the methodology, and the expected findings. My paper, as of now, is not a quantitative one. I'll be working on that. It is again in very initial stage. I have not done not like gone through multiple papers for my research, but yes, 2 papers. So like in the introduction part, like I've told you that the aviation is a global backbone which helps us to like in cross-border connections, and without aviation without aviation, the trade, everything will come to a halt. And again, it depends on our diplomatic relations with other countries. So my research problem would be geopolitical tensions, which disrupt the airspace access and the airline route planning. For this, I have done few and would be digging deeper into all the aviation diplomacy, the frameworks like Chicago Convention, the bilateral service agreements, and the geopolitical tensions. So the methodology I would be using in my paper is a case study approach. I would be using 3 cases, like one is the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the Middle Eastern disputes, and the last one, the India-Pakistan airspace closure. I'll be doing a comparative analysis on this, and it would be an integration of the international relations with aviation, like in terms of aviation. So, like once I will be ready with my paper, my expected findings would be like, what are the operational impacts such as fuel cost, crew scheduling, and reduced connectivity, etc. What are the economic consequences like higher ticket prices, reduced competitiveness, market redistribution, then and like how airlines adapt to these geopolitical disruption. They have to reroute, they have to take an alternate route, which is usually a longer one. They make a technical halt as well when they do a ultra long haul flights, and at times there's a fleet adjustment which is done. So I would like to study on like how airlines they adapt themselves due to these geopolitical disruptions. And furthermore, I would like to know about the policy implication. I would like to reflect the policy implication in my paper and how we can integrate the policy frameworks. So that is all, ma'am.
Okay. Ankita, good topic and very relevant in today's time when we are all kind of suffering from
Sorry.
basically uh, airline closures, space closures, etc.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
can we go back to your title page again?
1 second, ma'am. I stopped sharing. Allow me a minute. I'm sorry. Yes. Is it visible, ma'am?
Not yet. That's your last page.
1 second, ma'am. Is this visible, ma'am?
Yeah, now. Impact of geopolitical tensions, diplomacy on airspace access and airline route planning. Now, and that's basically what I thought, that you need basically a subtitle because exactly you're talking about India, right?
Yes, ma'am. And like I would be comparing, like it is basically a global thing. The geopolitical tensions are affecting all the airlines across the world. So I would be studying on what kind of impact is it making on other airlines as well. Not only on the Indian carriers, but yes, across the globe.
Because that will be vast. All
Sorry,
right.
ma'am?
That will really be vast. I mean,
Okay.
there are what? I don't know how many airlines there are,
No,
but
like
in fact, I am supposed to go to the US in May, late May, and all that. Now, the problem is, you see, I mean, I'm not going to fly Etihad, I'm not going to fly Qatar, I'm not going to fly Emirates. These are the things
yes,
which
ma'am.
fly out of Calcutta. Now, that means basically I'm looking at other airlines, and I find the number of airlines all over the world, you can't possibly basically be dealing with all of them. So, in fact, I mean, I think you stick to Indian carriers.
Sure, ma'am.
All right. Stick to Indian carriers. I mean, it's not possible. I mean, they offer their like British Airways, Lufthansa, etc. They offer what 1,71,000 return. All right, and then you have other like Virgin, which is basically much less. Okay, so I think basically, I mean, if you're going to do all these are all, and they follow different routes, right? So take Indian carriers and the
Ma'am.
3 cases that you have: Ukraine, Middle East, and Pakistan. Now, they well, what effect they've had on India, all right, particularly because the airspace over these is closed. It has increased fuel costs at a time when fuel itself is not available, all right. Uh, uh, so those which are flying out of India, I mean, which are Indian carriers, would be what? Air India, Indigo, right?
Yes,
Uh,
ma'am. Akasa.
and which one?
You're talking about the carriers which operate internationally?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would be Akasa, Indigo, SpiceJet, and
Hmm.
Air India. And Air India Express.
Akasa also goes out of India.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It does.
Oh, okay, okay. So these are limited and it can be done. All right, okay. How are they rescheduling as a result of that, and how it affects basically the cost, all right, uh, of flying, okay,
Mhm.
which is passed on to the passengers. All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Uh,
Yes.
so basically, I mean, there is much more that you can do if you have only a limit. Your three case studies are fine. Those
Yes.
three are absolutely fine because they're current and is there. Uh, are you also working in some airline or something?
Yes, ma'am. I
And
work for Air India.
you work for Air India. So you
Yes.
can easily avail of data, all right, which is there, the rerouting and stuff like that, I mean, refueling in Vienna by Air India, all right, which is
Yes, ma'am.
obviously increase the cost of, well, flying, all right,
Yes.
Air India. And I think the same is true of Indigo, etc. I mean, because they have to not only bypass Pakistan, they have to bypass the Middle East and they have to
Mhm.
bypass Ukraine.
Ma'am,
So it's certainly
basically,
true.
like, may I add to this?
Yeah,
Indigo, they have wet leased the aircraft, like they have wet leased aircraft from Turkish Airlines. So there's no restriction on them flying over Pakistan because they are not taking Indian registered aircrafts in Pakistan airspace. So they don't have much of challenges like what we have.
yeah, this is exactly what you also must point out. But the only thing is, in fact, I think Indigo is taking advantage of this.
Yes, ma'am.
They are canceling suppose it's Calcutta to Mumbai, all right, and then you fly out in Turkish Airlines, but they're canceling the Indian sector.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
the person is kind of stranded and has to pay through the nose to get another ticket, all right. So these are also there, all right. The rest is Turkish Airlines, okay. You know that since you're working for an airline, what exactly is happening now in the current context. I mean, if you look at the fares, and it's the passenger who is actually being victimized.
Of
All
course,
right.
ma'am.
Uh, yeah,
There's fuel pricing also introduced by the airlines, Indigo,
and
Air
all that is
India.
passed on to the passenger.
Yes,
All right.
ma'am.
So
By default, it
basically,
goes to the passengers.
absolutely. So basically, I mean, this also has to be highlighted. All right.
Yes.
Uh, uh, I'm going to, as you said, the Chicago Convention, etc., the various conventions there are.
Yes,
Uh,
ma'am.
whether this kind of thing violates or whatever, all right. Uh, Also, at the end, I think you can add some suggestions from your side. I
Yes,
mean,
ma'am.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So how do we kind of overcome this kind of thing? I mean,
Okay.
what are the alternates that we can plan out beforehand? Of course, wars are not predictable,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
I mean, a looming war is predictable. Like Iran conflict, all right, that has been looming for a very long time, all right, and uh, Iran did warn, even in December, that they're going to target American sites nearby since they cannot get at America. So the United States, so they go to target sites where Americans have built, all right, as such in the nearby states, all right. So that was very clear. Nobody took it seriously, but the fact is they
Yes,
went ahead
ma'am.
with it. That is a good strategy, all right. So basically, just like LPG, or for that matter diesel, petrol, how much stock do we have, all right? What alternate routes do we have? Now we're thinking about it. Why didn't we think about it before? All right.
Yes, ma'am.
Because these disruptions can always happen, all right. We
Yes,
spend
ma'am.
so much on Chabahar, and the fact is, well, Chabahar is in ruins now, all right. uh, so we're trying to get from Central Asia. Why did we not plan on other lines, all right, from Central Asia? We did think in terms of course, a pipeline passing through Pakistan, but then we spoiled relations with Pakistan even further and never carried it forward. All right.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
basically, alternate routes and things like that. So the same way, airlines, all right, are affected. But more than airlines, the people are affected, all right? It's the passengers who are affected. So from the beginning, can they think in terms of stockpiling, all right, alternate routes which can be followed in case of conflict? Say 6 months before a conflict starts, you rethink, all right, what can happen, all right? What other scenarios can be there, all right? That will make it even more interesting, okay?
Yes, ma'am, definitely, ma'am.
Right?
I have few questions like which I
Sure,
would
go right
be
ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead with your
No,
questions.
not the question like for my paper, which I would be using for my paper. How do foreign policy decisions like sanctions or alliances, they they like directly influence the global aviation corridors and the airline competitiveness? And to what extent like aviation diplomacy influence the redistribution of routes among the airlines, during the geopolitical crisis? Like, I just thought about these two as of now. I'll be
Hmm.
working on more.
These are very interesting. You just talked about Indigo and code sharing with Turkish Airlines, and so therefore, in fact, Turkey has no problem with basically Pakistan, so they
No,
can
ma'am.
overfly Pakistan, and the same kind of route, you know. So basically, can we think this is a question, all right, of
Okay.
code share, all right, which will here diplomacy is required. So diplomacy comes in, all right. Uh, Airlines, code sharing, you have a Star Alliance and all that, but with kind of odd, uh, uh, say Finland, Finnair or something like that, all right? That has no problems with Pakistan or anything like that. So they're
No, ma'am.
offering a very low price, right? So you fly through Helsinki. Now, if Air India had a contract with them, all right, that would help. So they can fly the Indian sectors, and then of course the rest is done by that, which will actually attract more passengers to these kind of, you know, code shared things. Okay, so in a way, it will be a win-win situation for both Finnair and for Air India, right? So think about these questions. All right,
Yeah, ma'am.
code sharing. So aviation diplomacy, as you said, all right. Uh, Countries we have good relations with, whether our airlines can get together too, all right? Which because all countries they don't have any problems with Pakistan, but we cannot overfly Pakistan. But many other airlines can, like Turkey, all right? The Turkish Airlines that is doing it. Okay. Uh, well, I know that recently, in fact, this Turkish Airlines has been going from Mumbai to Jeddah, Jeddah to Istanbul, and from Istanbul to the United States. Okay, so basically that's the circuitous route. It's a longer route, but if it could be even shortened in any other way, all right. Uh, it's a good paper. It's a very interesting paper, and I don't think anybody here in the earlier cohorts has tried something like this. So we'll look forward to your paper.
Thank
Okay,
you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Ankita, you're welcome, Ankita. Right.
All right. Thank you, Ankita. Ma'am, next we have one more presentation by Vedahi.
Okay.
Yeah. Vedahi, I think you will also have to join as a panelist in order to access your audio and video.
Vadeji, please accept the invitation to join as panelist.
if it's taking time, maybe we can take Mithika before her.
We should go ahead with that.
Yeah. So Mithika, you can present right now.
Hi, good evening, ma'am. I'll just share my screen.
Right.
Is my screen visible?
Not yet.
Yeah, it's starting.
Yeah.
So, like I had mentioned, that my topic would be use of tariffs by the US as economic statecraft and its impact on India's diplomacy and strategic autonomy. So largely, like we had discussed last time, the topic would focus on, what tariffs traditionally meant. So, they serve these three purposes of revenue protection and reciprocity, but how over a period of time they have developed into, power instruments, which are even more than, simple mere trade tools. So tariff as a foreign policy tool is no longer restricted to, just as a tool of revenue generation, but is actually deployed by states, for various other reasons to, establish their power in the trade market. Like I mentioned, tariffs as if you had to historically trace back, the U.S. tariffs, they have moved through, very clear phases where they were initially, like I mentioned, initially introduced for revenue generation, then for protectionism, and however it moved on to trade liberalization, the post the World War II era. But now what we are seeing is that the modern tariffs are being used by the as geopolitical tools, though styled as protectionism, but in the garb of industrial policy and a security narrative by the US. So, in the the trade war paradigm, it is seen that these are used as they're strategically used as pressure tools to negotiate market access, subsidies, and regulatory concessions. And although they start off as trade wars, they ultimately converge into alignment partners and non-alignment partners. And what are the economic consequences of this? In fact, there are interesting studies around this, that how the US tariffs from in the past, because this is not something new. When it happened initially as well, how have they impacted the GDP? Is there actually any gain to the domestic market that is resulted from these tariffs, or is it that largely what they're looking for is the geopolitical leverage that they want, even though there may be some domestic economic fallbacks within the country? One of the things that I would also do in my study is to actually compare the United States, impact, the reciprocal tariff impact, on India through a comparative study with, what has China done and what has the EU done, and why it works for them or it may not, and whether the same thing would work for India or it may not work for India. So that's one of the questions which I'll come to later. In terms of implications for India's diplomacy and strategic autonomy, what we have seen is that yes, and this is all documented, that for India, there has been export competitiveness that was created by these tariffs, whether today or in the past, in the the Obama regime, when there were the initial imposition of the reciprocal tariffs. There is a policy space constraint that is created by these tariff actions. The other thing is how do you balance the diplomatic autonomy that India has, especially in the context of the actions that were taken vis-a-vis the import of oil by India from, or crude by India from Russia. Now, there are certain strategic adjustments that are required. So India has taken various steps, like the diversification of trade, going and signing FTAs with various other countries like the EU and the UK, and they have tried to strengthen their regulatory measures inherently internally as well. And India also exercises autonomy through flexibility, engagement, and structured bargaining under pressure. But what does this really mean for India? Has has it really converged into what we are seeing? And a lot of it is still unanswered because we haven't been able to conclude anything, and we are still in the process of doing it. So ultimately, uh, this is just a carry forward of that. So I'll move to my research questions. So obviously, the first question would be the characterization and the evolution of tariffs as a statecraft first framework, which is now taking shape in various countries. And to this we will also link the economic impact. Where does it actually help alter trade policies, or are these actually temporary measures which are done more as power play tactics? The other thing is the evaluation of middle power geo-economic agencies like India. So we are not like currently, at least from a state performance perspective, superpowers like in the category of the EU or China. So what do state players like India, how do they respond? Is would retaliatory measures like symmetrically as employed by China and EU work for us, or could India have acted differently by actually going full-fledged against the US? And the third is very important, is the role of domestic coalition formation. Now we did study or we did go through a lecture in terms of the other non-state actors, and what we know is that typically there are strong non-state actors, and would it be beneficial for India to actually form a coalition with such non-state actors, like for example, like pharma industry in India is relevant, right? And all the exports that it does to the US is also very critical for the US. So would relying on the US Industry Association for the pharmaceuticals benefit India, and would it help India create independent basis to actually influence its policy with the US? The other is the support linked support evidence based narrative in terms of how these tariffs are actually impacting the entire supply chain, and just not the Indian exporters, but ultimately even the importers in the US, and how costs have risen for them. And thirdly, deliberately link tariff disputes to issues that matter most to the US coalition. Now, like we have seen that majorly what US had tried to do is they have tried to impose, because of the security narrative, they have tried to impose high tariffs on semiconductors and all, which are also relevant for its defense industry. Now, defense supply chain is something which is a very critical trade space for the US. So to show that impact to the US, and to actually have them as your coalition partners, ultimately could also help India. So these are the questions that I would evaluate and look at. Obviously, my methodology, which I had explained in the past, also would be largely qualitative, but with a bit of quantitative. So it's like a mixed approach with the qualitative core, because we are talking about tariffs and numbers now. Tariffs and concessions and duties, numbers do become important. So I would also be evaluating that broadly from the context of impact on GDP, and the domestic tax base. How does it get impacted in both countries, be it India or the US?
Okay, Mitika, I think this is well written and all that. Just a few questions, some of them technical. But first, the question is, have you also basically discussed the WTO and its regulations, and how far they have succeeded? We do
Yes, ma'am.
have international. Okay, so you have, right?
I have done that
That's
research, and I have looked at that impact, and I will be covering that in terms of when I'm evaluating the question of whether India could have done something differently, especially as a middle power player, and in terms of in the past how the WTO and the GATT framework has worked for India or not worked so well, and especially when US has in most cases been very restrictive or have tried to block these processes. So yes, I have looked at it, and I am going to evaluate and enhance on that as well.
okay. Also, basically, the treaties which have been signed by many countries and have not been signed by others. Have you discussed those regarding
So, ma'am,
tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers?
So yes, ma'am. In the context of US, what is happening presently in terms of where they have already been able to sign certain agreements as and have branded them as alignment part of what you're referring to, or the general, the tariff treaties that are in place?
Okay, Mitika. Basically, your focus is on the United States,
Yes.
right? I mean, you are dealing with the United States. So maybe
Yes,
that
ma'am.
should be reflected in, all right, in your title. All right, maybe a subtitle which contains the United States and what you're trying to work on. And the other focus is on India, right?
Yes.
You have brought in China, you have brought in the EU, but yeah, go back to your first. Okay, just read it out because I'm reading this on my phone and it's too tiny.
Use
Can
of
you read out the
tariffs by
title?
Yes, ma'am. Use of tariffs by the USA as geoeconomic statecraft and its impact on India's diplomacy and strategic autonomy.
Oh, okay. So you have put it in. That's
Yes.
fine. I mean, both US and India are there. All right.
Yes.
So that is all right. My question was about the WTO, which you say that you have brought in. Basically, the tariff regime, all right, non-tariff barriers, is how they have tried to get across. I mean, get through them. You know, first of all, there was the GATT, all right, the GATT,
Yes.
and then of course the WTO. Just go into a bit of that, all right, that literature before you go on further.
Yes, ma'am.
The other technical question was basically your research questions are more like, I mean, they should be shaped as questions, right? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Because yeah, just go back.
I don't know
Research
if
again, it's too tiny for me to see.
one, one second, ma'am.
I mean, because neither my laptop nor my desktop seems to. I mean, they seem to have conked out together. So I'm looking at it on my phone, and yeah, I don't see question marks. Are there question marks at the end?
Yes, ma'am. So if you see, if you see the middle power geoeconomic, I've just given subheadings. But the question is, how do states like India respond when they cannot retaliate symmetrically like China and the EU? Could India have acted differently through retaliation to preserve its full autonomy? Similarly,
Hmm.
under the domestic coalition formation, how target states like India can strategically engage with coercers domestic coalition building to counter the tariff threat, like the US industry associations that are importer dependent to act as domestic veto players. Then the last one is deliberately okay, this is not in the form of a question, but I get it. I will frame this in a question, but yes.
Yeah, yeah. And it'd be good, basically, since you have research questions over there, you have a lit review before this, a literature review.
Sorry, ma'am,
Have
I
you?
didn't.
Do you have a literature review before this? I mean,
No,
do
I
add
don't.
it.
I'll add that.
Yeah, please add that, okay?
Yes.
So that will make it more of a research paper. In any case, it's a research paper. The other question that I wanted to ask you was basically you talk about uh, use of both quantitative and qualitative. Qualitative mainly and a bit of quantitative. All right.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
where will you get your data for the quantitative?
Ma'am, I have researched, so there are quite a few because this is largely tariffs and especially the GDP impact is a tax foray. So I have come
Hmm.
across a lot of tax foundation work where they have graphically tested this data and come out, with various evaluations. So there are various studies which will help me to actually conclude in terms of what has been the impact in the past and what we will largely see. This will also tie in with obviously the current scenario that the US is facing because of the US Supreme Court ruling, where they are
Right.
facing a refund
Oh,
scenario
yeah.
where they will have to actually, give that money back to, many of the importers of the large corporates.
The
So,
president doesn't really bother about that 10% tariff the next day itself.
yes.
Yeah. So go into
So,
basically
so
American
it will,
politics also. Yeah. Mhm.
yes, yes. So there would be that
Uh,
aspect as well.
okay. You're not doing any interviews at all whatsoever. One or two?
No, ma'am. My schedule will not allow me to do that. So I would largely rely on, research, the qualitative material that is available online.
Okay. There is a lot of good material available online that way.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead. I think it's going to be a good paper. Uh, I'm looking forward to the end product. Okay.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitika.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we can have Vaidehi ji, if she is ready.
Yes,
Vaidehi.
yes, I'm ready.
So I'm sharing screen for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Vaidehi will not be visible, right?
Yeah, ma'am, there's an issue.
Okay, no problem. Go ahead.
Okay. So, good evening, ma'am and fellow researchers. I'm Vaidehi Tekade, and today I'll be presenting my research. Maybe my first slide is not visible. Should I continue or should I wait? Okay.
The first page, the title page is there. Was there.
Yeah.
It's gone again.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, it works. So today I'll be presenting my research, which is titled Urban Heritage as Strategic Soft Power, Epistemic Delinking and Expansion of India's UNESCO Footprint with Ahmedabad as a case study. So moving on the next slide. So, which talks about research question, objective, and core arguments. So, my research is guided by the central question like how UNESCO World Heritage City recognition transform local heritage into an instrument of soft power and enable epistemic delinking. I have shaped two questions, formed two questions, but I don't know. Maybe it's there in the slide, or should I read it out for you?
Read
I
it
have
out.
it later. Yeah. So the first question is based on soft power focus, and the second one is on epistemic delinking focus. So the first research question is how does Ahmedabad utilize UNESCO World Heritage status to reshape international perceptions and increase diplomatic influence through urban narratives? And the second one is to what extent does UNESCO World Heritage recognition empower local communities to privilege indigenous or local knowledge systems over Eurocentric narratives in urban conservation management? So, the core argument is that India is leveraging its living urban heritage rooted in the philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So, what it will do is it will expand UNESCO footprint, it will validate indigenous civilizational narratives, and contribute to a multipolar new cultural order. So the objective is to analyze how UNESCO recognition transforms cities into diplomatic assets and now moving beyond culture into soft power strategy. So moving on to the next slide, so which is literature review. So I have built my research on some key theoretical frameworks. So first one is obviously soft power. So Joseph Nye's concept which focus on attraction rather than coercion. And then I've taken Simon and Holt, competitive identity, and Winter's heritage diplomacy. So, however, the key theoretical shift comes from Walter Mignolo's concept of epistemic delinking. So, which allows us to understand how India is not just participating in global systems, but is actively challenging Eurocentric definitions of heritage and modernity. So, here we will be. Uh, we will be analyzing UNESCO's outstanding universal value and it will be reinterpreted through India's civilizational logic of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So moving on to the next slide, which talks about case study and methodology. So the case study focus on Ahmedabad, which was India's first UNESCO World Heritage City, being a flag bearer of living heritage model. So it majorly talked about historical continuity because it talks about ancient civilizational values and it coexists with modern urban governance and they also reinforce each other. So the role is it serves as a prototype for projecting indigenous identity globally by challenging Western centric heritage definition. And then talking about research methodology, so I have taken qualitative case study approach. So first I'll be referring to the theories of soft power to epistemic delinking, which I've discussed in the literature review. And then I'll be also focusing on discourse analysis like 1972 UNESCO World Heritage Convention and the recent G20 Kashi Cultural Framework. So we can use that framework as a model. And the third one, what I'll be doing is what I have already done is field observation. Ahmedabad, I had been to Ahmedabad as I had discussed last time. So that will also be included. And then I'll be analyzing the how this Ahmedabad municipal corporation, how they have worked and how we can link all these models and for the uh, so to have a comparative insights for cities like Varanasi, Delhi and Mumbai. And then I'll be also sharing my policy recommendations. So moving on the next slide. So I'll be talking about my findings. So the findings show that UNESCO heritage recognition acts as a catalyst. So first is domestic impact of UNESCO branding. So it promotes urban modernization while simultaneously validating India's historical narratives on a global stage. And then I've taken Ahmedabad heritage model. So it demonstrates that heritage conservation and economic growth are not contradictory. So they can coexist and can even reinforce international legitimacy. And then third, I have discussed about multilateral role of the multilateral forums like G20 and BRICS. So now currently India is the chair of BRICS presidency. And if we compare G20's Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam theme, we have, and also the Global South advocacy, we can see the imprints in the BRICS presidency also. If we see all the 5 pillars of BRICS, like innovation, sustainability, so it has a print like a print of G20 in BRICS also. So therefore, we can see these two forums will act as the soft power accelerators. And then G20 2023 presidency showcased India's civilizational ethos through Kashi cultural framework. So the upcoming presidency can serve as an epistemic laboratory where it will enable global South nations to redefine heritage norms. So this can open pathways for cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Varanasi to be positioned strategically for future UNESCO recognition. And Delhi, we can obviously uh, uh, what we say project it through para diplomacy, because Delhi is a capital of India, and also it's a hub of para diplomacy. And also Mumbai is a financial capital, also being a uh, hub of art deco decorations and all, art deco museums and all, like we have Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Museum in Mumbai. So all these sites are UNESCO recognized sites. So we can leverage these sites also. And so moving on to the last slide, which is recommendations and way forward. So based on the findings, I propose 4 key policy recommendations. First is fast track UNESCO tentative list, especially for cities like Varanasi, Delhi, and Mumbai. So we can use Kashi Cultural Pathway G20 to align municipal laws and also Ahmedabad's model with international norms. And second is establish an indigenous outstanding task force, so to institutionalize indigenous outstanding universal value framework, which will prioritize Varanasi, Mumbai and Delhi. Then the third point is leveraging BRICS cultural exchange. So here, to build a global South consensus on heritage standards, like BRICS has Heritage Conservation Alliance, so that we can leverage. And the fourth is create a sovereign digital repository. So what that will ensure is it will ensure data autonomy and narrative control over India's heritage sites. And the way forward is to conclude, I would say expanding UNESCO's designations is not just cultural, it's strategic. So it allows India to diversify its soft power, challenge Western centric definitions of heritage, and advance a multipolar new cultural order rooted in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So to conclude, I would say India's living heritage cities are not just remnants of past, they are active instruments shaping the future of global diplomacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaidehi. In fact, this is a huge improvement over your last one, where you're focusing only on Ahmedabad. Now you've brought in epistemic delinking and all that theory, which actually brings me, I mean, because your literature review is, I'm sure there'll be more, but
Yes, ma'am.
what you have shown is basically a few of your theory-based books, all right? I mean, theories
Yes,
that you're
ma'am.
using or otherwise.
Mhm.
So, but I think you should bring in also about heritage city or a heritage UNESCO heritage. Okay, there are works on that. Take at the UN website the importance of this. All right.
Okay.
Add a bit more to your literature review. All right, going beyond just the theoretical books. All right. I mean, theories books which basically explain theories or rather expound theories on which you are basing your work. All right.
So UNESCO website, I have to focus now on that.
Yeah, so take a look at that. All right. The
Okay.
other thing, in fact, I mean, while you were talking, I was just wondering, you urban heritage as strategic. Uh, this is okay. I mean, the topic is all right. The other thing was basically that I was thinking is that to bring in the social media. All right.
Okay.
UNESCO designating Ahmedabad uh, uh, as a basically heritage city. Okay.
Hmm.
And you said it's living heritage, which is exactly what I was trying to point out in the last one. Okay. Uh, so it is building heritage also. I mean, it's not just kind of you see dead heritage. Okay. Mohenjo-daro is dead heritage, but Indian cities like Varanasi and all that, they are all living. All right. So basically, very important that way. Now, uh, uh, well, so soft power is also promoted by social media in the current context, in today's context, right? So
Yes, ma'am.
maybe, in fact, I think you should, towards the end, I mean, how soft power can be used, or rather, basically, how social media can be used to promote soft power. And here, in that context, UNESCO heritage cities, all right? Unless people know, all right, that these are tourist destinations or what can be found there, whether it's interesting enough, how you're talking about tourism, all right, and which is part
Yes,
of soft
ma'am.
power, but how will they know? All right. So use of social media, both by the government and by the private sector, all right, to promote, okay, heritage cities, okay. Uh, and I think it's completed itself. You have research questions, you're answering them. Uh, Go ahead. I think it's a good paper. It's
Hmm.
coming out much better than last time also, right?
Yes, ma'am. That is because of your guidance, ma'am. Last time
No,
you
thank
just
you.
explained
Thank
me
you. Because more,
wonderfully.
yeah,
It was
in
really
fact,
helpful.
yeah, it's sounds much better certainly because it's got wider scope. It's not just kind of just, limited. All right. Go
Yes.
ahead. I'm looking forward to your final product. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I'll definitely look. I'll definitely read it into more into social media and
Yeah.
soft power, and I'll come back.
Yeah, and yeah, literature review and basically into social media and how it can promote soft power. All right.
Sure,
So
sure, ma'am.
right.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay, you're welcome. Very.
Okay, thank you, Vaidehi. Thank you, everybody, for your insightful presentations. It was truly a valuable learning experience, and we look forward to seeing your final work in the form of essay draft submissions. A special note of gratitude to our chair for the valuable feedback and constant support throughout. If any participants have any queries, please feel free to write us at impri learning@impri@gmail.com or on the WhatsApp group. Ma'am, would you like to give any closing remarks?
Yes, there was one fellow, I'm not mentioning basically the name, but he WhatsApped me because he had questions. He wanted to postpone because he had some exams coming up and he wanted to ask whether, I said it's not in my area, basically you have to ask IMPRI. So this Gmail address that you just gave out, why don't you send it to all the fellows so that they can ask IMPRI, I mean, these questions about what is the last date of submission, whether submission will be accepted after a certain date, all right? So these kind of questions, because I really cannot answer that. And he's very keen on doing it, but he has an exam coming up or something like that, so he'd like to be later. So maybe you can email this to fellows, or in fact, in the general video that you send out, you can also add a note giving this email address, all right, that any questions can be directed to, all right, the address that you give at gmail.com. Okay. And that is just what I wanted to say. And thank you very much, Paridhi, for conducting this. All the papers were very good, and they're coming up, they're shaping up quite well. I'm looking forward to the others also. I'm sure they'll be good too when they're done. And thank you, those who presented today. You are, all of you, working hard. I can see that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And with this, I would like to proceed to a formal vote of thanks. As we conclude day 8 of the DFPGYF Diplomacy, Foreign Policy and Geopolitics Youth Fellowship, Cohort 3.0, I, Paridhi, on behalf of the IMPRI Center for International Relations and Strategic Studies, extend my heartfelt gratitude. We sincerely thank our chair today, Professor Sanjukta Bhattacharya ji, for her invaluable contributions and for engaging us in a powerful discussion. We thank all of our participants who have presented their work and actively participated in today's deliberation. Session readings and resources will be shared via email. A video recording of today's session will be available for reference. We look forward to seeing you for day 9 of this fellowship. If you are following our work by watching it on YouTube, listening via podcast, or reading our publication, we truly appreciate your engagement and support. Once again, thank you all for being a part of this initiative. Wishing you a great evening ahead.
Thank you, Paridhi.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.